This video is brought to you by Marvel Snap's Deadpool Diner, but more on that in a moment. Now, some people are going to think that I enjoy making videos like this because I enjoy the drama in a sense, but I've been putting off making this video for like over a week now. It is safe to say that the Eternal formats like Legacy and Modern, which isn't actually an Eternal format by the way, someone online will get very upset with me for saying that, but I'm going to keep calling it Eternal format because that distinction really doesn't matter that much. Like, I just don't give a I don't care. But Legacy has a 31.4% metagame share in Rescaminator, and if we include other decks, Grief actually has a higher metagame share than that would first suggest. Modern looks less bad on the front because Bant Nadu, or basically the bird deck, bird breakfast as I like to call it, is only 13.7% of the metagame, but it did dominate the Pro Tour, win the Pro Tour, dominate the top 8, and also put up incredible win percentage numbers when you take away mirror matches. And then Historic is putting up some pretty ridiculous results around Red-White Energy, just being incredibly dominant. Basically there was an event a few weeks back where it was like 40% of the metagame, and yeah, not good. Not good. The actual like common thread through all this is Modern Horizons, right? Grief being a Modern Horizons 2 card, and the rest of this stuff being Modern Horizons 3 stuff. The reason I held off on making the video was that I assumed they would do something. I assumed that they would do an emergency ban announcement, where they do an off-scheduled or unscheduled announcement to change up some formats and get rid of some stuff that's causing some problems. I'd much sooner praise them for doing the right thing and what the community wants and what seems to be correct for the game than to bemoan what they're not doing. So I held off, hoping I could be, I guess, positive in a way. However, we had Wizards of the Coast Double Down this week on Wednesday. We had them come out with Blake doing an announcement explaining why they aren't doing any form of announcement. So this video is about that. It's about the terrible state we find the older, I keep saying Eternal throughout this video, sorry, but the older formats in, the Historics, the Moderns, the Legacies, these formats that personally I think are way more fun than say Standard in terms of a competitive environment, but I have found it very hard to keep playing over the last couple of years and have recently fell off of again because of the situations we find ourselves in with how the metagames are shook out and how the play patterns and how the formats feel. So I'm going to address all of that and how it's Modern Horizons' fault in this video. But before we do that, I had to pay a mortgage, so here's an ad spot. I was excited for Marvel Studios' Deadpool and Wolverine as the next maladjusted, determinedly online comic book nerd, but I can't spend my whole time watching it. It's in theaters now, by the way. What else can I do with my time? Oh, chimichangas! It's a new Marvel Snap event! To celebrate the release of the hotly anticipated Deadpool and Wolverine, Marvel Snap are launching a brand new game mode. The next step in the Deadpool season is Deadpool's Diner. In the words of Ben Broden, a swimsuit in a swimming pool,
in this awesome new game mode, you bet Deadpool's bubs before you play. At table 1, you'll be given enough bubs for your first match. As you win, you'll earn enough bubs to step up to table 2, then 3, and so on.
You're gonna bet bubs in high-stakes table play to unlock rewards like the new Cassandra Nova. Yes, that is Xavier's evil ex-twin, and yes, that is the same twin he killed in the womb in Grant Morrison's incredible Uncanny X-Men run. It's these kind of events that bring me back to Marvel Snap time and time again. I wish other not-to-be-named digital card game applications had similar effort and time and energy spent on their promotional events and their limited time offerings. If you haven't played Marvel Snap before, it's a fast-paced competitive card game. Games only take 3 minutes to complete. Features all of your favorite Marvel characters and locations, with locations as a mechanic giving a really dynamic and varied feel to even your most heavily played matchup. The snap mechanic, among other things, makes it one of the most unique digital card games out there, and there's a reason it's so popular. The gameplay loop of Marvel Snap is fantastic. It's truly one of the most unique digital card games around. Deadpool's Diner will be running from the 23rd of July through to August the 6th, so why not install the game through the link below, support the channel, and get involved. Thank you to Marvel Snap for sponsoring this video. Let's do a quick rundown on what's going on in each of the formats. So Legacy to begin with has this problem that is grief. Basically, the entire Legacy community is coming together and completely in agreement that grief is too good and grief needs to go. The thing you normally do is you grief them, then you cast Reanimate to put grief back into play and grief them again. It's very much the same thing as the scam archetype that you get in current Modern, except for Reanimate has more uses. It can get you back in a Traxxas, an Archon, a Troll of Khazad-dûm, or if some crazy person's still doing it, they can be playing a copy of Griselbrand too, but it's normally worse than a Traxxas, which is really fucking funny. So I made videos about how a Traxxas was like the new Griselbrand for Legacy when a Traxxas got revealed, and I played with it for the first time and explained why it's so good. And people told me I was, I got accused of clickbaiting in one Facebook group where the video got shared, and someone linked me to it, the accusation, which is really funny because lo and behold, I was right. Because basically when you play with it, you can, it's not me being that big brain. You play with a Traxxas and you're like, yeah. This is better than Griselbrand a lot of the time. On top of all this, the grief thing has been an ongoing issue for quite some time, and it's got exaggerated. It's got worsened by the recent printing of Psychic Frog, which is probably one of the best mid-range sort of, arguably tempo. That's a whole different video, I guess, whether it's tempo or mid-range, but a tempo mid-range card in Legacy. It draws your cards, it makes use of your resources to keep it alive and protect itself, and yeah, it can be a linchpin of the deck that is very strong when you take your opponent to top decking, because if they don't have an answer for it, they're dead. You're going to win through card advantage. And like I said, I don't think I've ever said it with this much confidence. The community is absolutely in agreement that Grief needs to go. There is a debate around getting rid of Grief being enough, but I think the general consensus from a lot of players, better than me and content creators, is that, and players, it's not just content creators, but players too, is that doing softly touches is probably better. So getting rid of Grief and seeing where the format ends up is good. There's a possibility that Psychic Frog continues to be too good. And the thing is that the Grief metagame shares and the sentiment towards Grief is not unique or new. We've had situations like this in the past with usually Modern Horizons stuff or things from the Fire Design era. So I'm talking like Astrolabe and Oko. There's been cards in the past that have had near unanimous complaints, or at least everyone who's not playing it agrees that it's bad. Meanwhile, the players playing with it want to keep it around for as long as possible to pump their win rates in their games. But Grief is the worst of the lot of them. I played a lot more Legacy when Astrolabe and Oko were around and play a lot less recently. I sort of fell out of love with getting griefed months ago, way before Modern Horizons 3 landed. I was hoping 3 might actually fix this issue for me and want to play more. I just don't, even with the inclusion of new cards like Felia and such. Grief is bad for the format. And like I said, it might be 40% of the metagame for the Re-Scaminator deck, which is the problem deck. But then if you add Dimir, Scam, and Usul spells, which are just shy of 5% combined to the metagame share of a Scaminator, we get up to 36% currently. Last week, it was over 50% at one point just because of all the challenge wins and such. And the data we've got is imperfect. They actually peeled away from giving us as much data as we had before by removing the deck, the pages that we see for winning events and stuff. I think that's back now. I don't fucking know. I'm so tired of following this shit at this point because I'm so jaded about this. But Goldfish is the imperfect data that you and I and the community has and often get told isn't good enough. But with that imperfect and not good enough data, we can still see that Scam is too good and that Grief is too good. I don't think there's going to be much data coming out that's going to tell us otherwise. I think it actually might make the numbers worse, if I'm honest. Just from admittedly, a gut feeling there. And the interesting thing about Grief is that we'd already had someone mention on the ban of restricted announcements previously that one of the Legacy experts said it needed to go, but they had good reason not to, and then Wizards of the Coast didn't explain the good reason not to. So they admitted that someone within the team wants it gone, and then they said there's a good reason not to, and didn't tell us why. At that point, Wizards, I'm like, don't fucking say anything. What are you doing? You're just making it worse. In some ways, silence is better than you admitting that you've got people inside that are like, this should go, and then you won't explain why you won't listen to your own people. And the other line that's been bandied about a little bit is that there's not enough data, there's not enough big events, which is arguably a little bit insulting because, well, it's Legacy. What bigger events do you want than the online leagues? The format exists primarily online anyway, outside of like your larger NRG events and your upcoming Eternal Weekends and things like that. And on top of all of that, attendance at events are down. People are publicly cancelling flights and deciding not to attend things like Gen Con and NRG events because Legacy is a lame duck solved format that if you're not playing Grief, you're probably fucked. And if some of you are wondering why Grief is kind of okay for Modern, and there's an argument it might not be, you got to remember that the Grief decks are playing Daze and Force of Will in instances too. The best thing to back up your like double Thoughtseize Menace body is being able to count on your opponent's first spell too. It's kind of nuts. And then to clarify Molten, I'm not going to labor Nadu too much. I've done 2 whole videos on it. One about how the deck felt when I first played with it, or should I say played against it. I was struggling to get the wins with it because I'm fucking bad at Magic. But I also did the bird got worse at the Pro Tour where I broke down the numbers. If you want to see that, that'll be linked in the description, the cards and similar. You can go back and watch that video. I'd love it if you watch 2 of my videos in a row. YouTube loves that shit. If you want to support the channel for free, that's the good shit. But Nadu is de facto the best deck in the format from win rate. It's pretty fucking clear. And the next band of restricted announcement they can address all this shit with is August the 24th. But I genuinely thought with the way things are and how dire things have been, they might actually do an emergency banned and restricted announcement. Now, Blake said on the stream on Wednesday that they are trying to instill confidence in the user base by not doing like off-schedule banned and restricted announcements, which I can understand the logic. So before I go into this and really like, you know, hammer home how I feel about this, I do want to like not shoot the messenger with Blake here. I've joked about stuff he said on streams and stuff in the past, but he's not the one managing this banned and restricted announcement, right? He's the one relaying the philosophy and the ideas and the culture at the company alongside the decisions of other people managing the ban list. Blake is not doing that. So let's peel back on giving him the shit for this one. But the reason that we've got such a ski with ban and restricted announcement period is because we've had like a week's holiday after the Pro Tour, so they pulled it forward so that they could have less data available, say that everything was fine, and then we're in this situation where it evidently isn't fine. People don't want to play Modern right now because of how good Nadu is. And then on top of all that, we're going to RCQ season. The competitive like round or season in less than 2 weeks now, or just under 2 weeks, is going to be Modern. But then we're going to have a ban announcement on the 24th, which is like a couple of weeks into that, or should I say from today's date, a month from now. So what we've got is people going into a format that is again solved. You know what the best deck is. You got to combat that deck, I guess, but we've already had weeks and the Pro Tour for people to try and combat this and they've failed. Nadu is de facto the best thing going right now. So then you've got to play Nadu or play the deck that can beat Nadu, only to know for almost certainty from the murmurings from the company and everyone else that Nadu is then going to get banned. So you're buying into the tools to play against Nadu, or more likely buying the tools to play Nadu, knowing full well that you're getting banned out later. Can you not see how the confidence issue is worse when you let this go? Because there's just like, there's no fucking doubt that Nadu gets the axe here. And when Nadu gets the axe, the deck will plummet in price. Like a large portion of the price is a load of cards that see only play in the Nadu archetype. Your Shukos, your Nantuko, Springleaf Druids, and whatever the fuck they're called, the ones that make the 1/1s. All that stuff is seeing very minimal, if zero play, and I mean zero play in other decks. So when Nadu goes, those cards are useless. So asking people to buy into that if they want to play into your competitive season to then ban it out for them later, as opposed to addressing the issue now, getting ahead of it, and being honest with your player base. I mean, they kind of are being honest with their player base, just delaying the whole thing, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I think Wizards of the Coast need to be responsible shepherds of the game by removing things when they cause problems like this. They need to allow people to have the confidence that they can book tickets to and travel and accommodation to go to events and play if you want the game to continue to have this competitive element, to have an RCQ season that people can believe in and want to travel to chase the pro dream, if you will. The idea that the format's going to shift and change dramatically because of a ban that everyone knows is coming, but after the first few weeks where you could have competed, is insane. And then to like go to the historic thing for a second, I'm not going to label this too much, but it's more just like stats from events where red-white energy is absolutely dominating the field. And I was going to ignore it and leave it out of this video until Blake addressed it within the stream as well, talking about how red-white energy was also a thing on their radar. And for that, the online design philosophy is different to paper, which I kind of also understand. They don't want to set hard dates, they can change at any time. The events aren't part of like a season, if you will. But what they're going to do is digitally errata and balance the cards, which I hate this so much. I've labeled this in videos before, and I'll do it again in future. There'll be more on this later. I'm not going to make this a big part of the video, but I just believe that Magic cards do the same thing across multiple formats and multiple mediums. I get digitally unique Magic cards in like the special formats on Arena, fine. But if you have a card with a name, that card should do that thing in all formats that it's legal in, because I think that's a very good positive element of having a card pool and a shared understanding and knowledge of cards. I think having cards do different things, same art, different name, or whether it be the same name, different mechanics, is bad. It's bad for the game. It weakens that knowledge pool you can build up and that understanding of mutual language that we all have. But at least they're doing something to fix that format so it doesn't become a boring thing that no one wants to ladder into and it kills that format. And all of this is because of Modern Horizons. The problem with the energy deck, which is dominant in historic, strong in timeless, strong in modern, and hasn't really seen any play in legacy. I say seen any play. It's not showing up in big numbers in legacy as far as I can tell. The problem with that archetype for me, even though it's actually really fun to play, like smashing those cards together is fun. Soul Guide Lantern Man, or whatever his name is, the one that gives you energy in life when you play things, the strictly better, power pushed Soul Sister, that card is super fun. I actually really like that card. Probably one of my favorite cards to play with from the set. However, the problem is, all of these energy cards are just an archetype given to us by Wizards of the Coast in Modern Horizons 3. It's just like close to a dozen cards that all play in some number, whether it be your Wrath of the Skies, your removal spells and Static Prison, the guy, the raptor, the removal spell, the red one, the blast. I'm not gonna put them on the screen here. I'm fucking tired of this shit. I'm so tired of Modern Horizons 3, it's unreal. But all these cards just give you a fucking archetype to play, and that's not emergent design. That's not innovation from a player base, taking your play pieces and finding new play patterns. That is being wholesale given basically a pre-constructed deck for you to slightly tune and then play in your format of choice. And it's really funny because it's being seen to play in 2 to 3 formats too, which makes that worse in my opinion. I've always hated it when you're prescriptively given the collection of spells and cards to play with. It's like when they go back and support an old archetype thing, like a Surveil or a Morph or whatever, and the 3 or 4 cards you get for the Commander Precon are the ones you're going to play, and everyone's going to play on playing that archetype because they're the best way to play it. I just don't like that. It feels too hand-holdy, it feels too prescriptive, it feels fucking boring. But on top of all of that, not only are we getting archetypes given to us, at least Nadu is more so the card. I mean, there's a lot of Modern Horizons 3 cards in that deck, but Nadu just randomly combos like crazy with artifacts and enchantments and creatures from years ago too. So Nadu isn't a whole archetype given to us, but all of this is just painful power creep all in one set. Ross Merriam recently tweeted that it's really funny that Standard rotates less than Modern does now. Now that sounds like someone's being quirky and, oh, look how smart I am, but it's fucking true. Standard now has like a 5-year rotation window where they want Standard to like last for longer. Is it 5 or 4 years? It's a fucking long time. Modern rotates every 2 years when a Modern Horizons set comes out and dominates the format and pushes all of the older decks out, or the vast majority of older decks out. Look at the Proton numbers. Again, I covered this in the Nadu video, but only Tron was the only traditional, maybe Amulet, I think, traditional old school Modern deck that was still putting up any representation of numbers. Meanwhile, all of the new stuff, Energy, the Energy Control and Aggro deck, Nadu, Ruby Storm, all of, arguably some of the cards from Storm from older sets, but either way, all of it is just archetypes that are broken wide open or just built purely out of the Modern Horizons 3 shit. And if you're gonna power creep the ever-loving fuck out of Magic and do this to the non-rotating formats, you kind of have to take responsibility when you fuck it up. And Nadu is an example of this. I think Nadu might be arguably worse than Hogak ever was, as another example of another Modern Horizons card that required a lot of discourse and conversations before it got banned correctly. Last time they banned the wrong things while trying to avoid a Hogak ban. Instead of doing it this time, and I predicted this, they wouldn't want to repeat the mistakes of the past because it's so obvious, they've instead just held off for multiple weeks to let people not play, or play if they're really feeling it, a format they don't want to play or feels solved, boring or miserable. And there's a point that I've seen a few people say. Sihar Mahadi from the Legacy Gambit, which I'll put on the screen and link down below. I listened to their episode on Grief earlier because I respect her opinions on Legacy quite a lot. But she had this point about like it's fine to move away from Magic when you're not enjoying it, to give it a break, which I agree with that basic sentiment. But in the circumstance where you're basically forced to take a break because you don't want to buy into a deck that is going to get banned and your deck just folds to said deck that is evidently too good and too oppressive for the format, that is not a fine place to take a break. Taking a break from Magic is when you feel burnt out or you're just not enjoying it for a multitude of reasons. The reason being that Wizards of the Coast have absolutely fucked the balance and refused to fix it in some time frame that could be, in this case, an entire extra month. And bearing in mind, it's not a month only. We've already had Nadu. The Pro Tour was 2 to 3 weeks ago at this point. We're approaching 2 months of Nadu by the time it gets banned. Grief has been an ongoing issue for a long time, complained about by very prominent and outspoken but good talented players. This is not people like me bitching that my weird fringe shit isn't playable because of stupid power creep Modern Horizons stuff. This is people pointing out how the Modern Horizons stuff is de facto the best thing to do. It pushes everything out towards either play or get fucked. So whilst you can take a break and go and play another format, and that is a thing you can do, or another card game, I feel like being forced to do that because Wizards aren't willing to take action to fix the power creep problem that they've created is not a good place to be. I don't think they're going to go back on this now. They're going to really commit to sticking to the schedule for the idea of creating confidence with the consumer. And again, I understand the flawed logic behind the bad decision. They want people to feel confident about the game and know when bans are coming. But ultimately, especially in a situation like this where we know what's getting banned, it solves nothing, improves nothing, and just damages confidence instead. It does the exact opposite of what they actually want. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Are you burnt out and tired of some of these formats because of this stuff? I certainly am. And I might talk more to this about Modern Horizons once you get another month or so away from it. We can reflect a bit. Because I got caught up in the excitement of Modern Horizons 3 too. I did a video about the love-hate relationship, the paradox that is Modern Horizons, the excitement that comes with it, but then the the brutality of what it does to the older formats. I might talk a bit more to that and try and express some of my feelings around that. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I've been Vince Wilson's PleasantKenobi of the internet, and I'll see you in the next video. And also, the Marvel Snap link's down there too. Click through to that, helps support the show. Ta-ta for now.